Here's something that'll haunt your thoughts at night. The United Kingdom has approximately 700 days until everything transforms. And I mean absolutely everything. How you exist, earn income, plan for old age, even whether remaining in this nation makes any sense whatsoever. 700 days, that's all. And here's what chills me to the bone. 95% of citizens have zero awareness this is approaching. Listen, I'm about to reveal something in the coming minutes that's going to fundamentally alter your perception of Britain's trajectory. Not in some abstract, oh, that's troubling manner. In a, I must make genuine choices about my existence immediately manner. Because what I've discovered isn't merely one challenge we must address. It's 6 distinct catastrophes, all striking concurrently, all reinforcing each other, like dominoes toppling in deliberate succession. And the frightening reality? They're currently falling. Most citizens simply haven't glanced downward yet. By the conclusion of this, you're going to comprehend precisely what's approaching, precisely when, and critically, what you can genuinely do regarding it while opportunity remains. But I require you to remain with me because the most vital information arrives at the conclusion. And if you overlook it, you'll be navigating the coming decade sightless. Initially, though, let me share something that occurred last week that scarcely generated headlines. So Moody's reduced Britain's credit rating from AA to AA-. Now, I understand your reaction. Fascinating story, friend. What does that actually signify? Here's what it signifies. The global financial establishment just examined the UK government's finances and essentially declared, yeah, we're less convinced you can repay us anymore. This resembles your credit score declining, except it's an entire nation. And when that occurs, everything becomes costlier. Every government bond, every infrastructure initiative, every pound we must borrow, it all expenses more presently. Britain previously held an AA rating, flawless credit. Now we're descending the ladder. And the government's reaction is essentially nothing concerning here. Everything satisfactory. But here's what prompted me to investigate deeper. This isn't occurring independently. This credit reduction is merely a symptom. The affliction is substantially larger. And that's when I discovered the 6 catastrophes. Let me present you with something that should genuinely alarm you, but likely won't because we've become so accustomed to it. The typical British worker presently earns less in actual terms than they achieved in 2008. Let that register for a moment. 17 years. And complete generation of professional life. And we're financially worse now than we were then. That's unprecedented in contemporary British history. Not throughout world conflicts, not throughout depressions, never. Here's where it deteriorates. UK productivity, essentially how much value we generate per hour labored, has entirely stagnated. We're currently 20% behind France and Germany, 20%. That indicates what requires a German worker 4 days requires us 5. And business investment dead last in the G7. Companies are examining Britain and choosing to construct their manufacturing facilities, their technology centers, their future elsewhere. Poland, not Birmingham, Berlin, not Manchester. But here's the reality. Nobody desires to articulate openly. Without economic expansion, everything else disintegrates. You cannot finance the NHS without expansion, cannot pay pensions, cannot repair infrastructure. Expansion is the oxygen the entire system requires to function. And we've been suffocating for over a decade. But wait, it deteriorates. Because while the economy's been stagnating, something else has been occurring that almost nobody's observing, okay? This is the catastrophe that genuinely frightens me because the mathematics is so ruthlessly straightforward and so impossible to evade. Britain's birth rate has plummeted to 1.49 children per woman. The replacement rate, the figure we require just to maintain equilibrium, is 2.1. We're nowhere close. So what? You might be considering fewer citizens, less congestion. Challenge resolved. Oh, if only. See, the population isn't contracting uniformly, young citizens aren't producing babies, but elderly citizens are surviving longer than ever. So what you obtain is this catastrophic scenario where the population isn't smaller, it's just older. Presently, we've got approximately 3 working-age citizens for every pensioner. That's already constrained, but manageable. By 2040, 2 to 1. By 2050, we're approaching 1 to 1. 1 worker, 1 pensioner. Consider what that signifies. One person's taxation, attempting to finance one person's state pension, NHS treatment, social services, everything. It's mathematically unfeasible. The system simply collapses. Japan's already experiencing this catastrophe. 3 decades of economic stagnation because they aged before they prospered. South Korea's birth rate is 0.7. They're literally vanishing as a society. And Britain, we're on the identical trajectory, just 15 years behind. Now, before you mention immigration will resolve it, we'd require about 1 million new citizens every single year perpetually just to maintain the age ratio stable. 1 million every year. That's not politically feasible. But without it, the mathematics doesn't function. So we've got an economy that's ceased expanding and a population that's rapidly aging. 2 catastrophes that exacerbate each other. But we're just commencing because while all this is occurring, something else is literally disintegrating around us. This one you can genuinely observe if you understand where to look. Britain's water system is leaking 30% of all water before it even reaches your tap. 30%. Victorian pipes are crumbling underground presently, and water companies, they've been distributing billions in dividends while barely investing in maintenance. We're not discussing some future challenge. Major cities could confront actual water shortages within a decade, not because of climate change, but because the pipes physically cannot deliver the water anymore. The roads require £14 billion just for emergency maintenance. Presently, and local councils don't possess it. So, roads deteriorate, potholes multiply, and in 10 years, large sections of the UK road network will be essentially unusable without massive investment that isn't arriving. HS2, remember that? The high-speed rail initiative that was intended to modernise Britain. It's been reduced so many times it might never reach its original destinations. Meanwhile, France, Spain, Japan, China, they've constructed thousands of miles of high-speed rail while we're still debating about it. And hospitals, the NHS maintenance backlog is over £11 billion. Roofs leaking, heating failing, operating theatres closing because the buildings aren't safe. This is Britain in 2025. Here's what keeps me awake at night. When infrastructure decays beyond a certain threshold, you encounter this doom loop. You cannot afford to repair it, so it deteriorates more, which makes it more expensive to repair, which means you definitely cannot afford it. Now, multiple UK infrastructure sectors have already entered that doom loop, but even if we possessed perfect infrastructure, it wouldn't rescue us from what's occurring to the social fabric itself. This one's harder to quantify, but perhaps the most dangerous of all. A child born in Blackpool has a life expectancy 10 years shorter than a child born in Westminster. Same country, 10-year difference. That's not a developed nation. That's a society that's failing massive portions of its population. But it's not just regional inequality, it's trust. Trust in government, parliament, police, media, NHS, all declining. And here's why that matters. When citizens lose faith in institutions, those institutions cease working. It becomes self-fulfilling. The political divisions aren't even traditional left versus right anymore. It's leave versus remain, young versus old, cities versus towns, graduates versus non-graduates. These groups literally cannot understand each other's worldviews anymore. They're operating from completely different realities. During World War II, Britain endured extreme hardship because there was this shared sense of we're all in this together that doesn't exist anymore. If serious economic pain strikes now, there's no social solidarity to draw upon. Just different tribes fighting over a shrinking pie. Crimes rising, police numbers cut, detection rates collapsed. For most crimes, police just provide you a reference number for insurance, and that's it. When the state cannot provide basic security, private security fills the gap. We're witnessing the beginning of a two-tier system. Wealthy areas with private guards. Everyone else just accepting crime as normal. 5 catastrophes down, but there's still 2 more that make everything else even more precarious. Okay, this one most citizens have no awareness about, but it's genuinely frightening. North Sea oil and gas production has declined 75% since 2000. We're now a massive net importer of energy. And when European gas prices spiked in 2022 and 2023, British energy bills tripled because we're completely exposed to international prices with zero control. The government had to expend tens of billions subsidizing energy bills to prevent economic collapse. Tens of billions we didn't possess for a crisis we couldn't prevent. That vulnerability is still present. We've shut down coal plants. Our nuclear is aging and scheduled to close. We're betting everything on renewables and gas imports. If there's another supply shock or if key import infrastructure fails, we face genuine blackouts. And here's the kicker. The renewable transition requires massive amounts of copper, lithium, rare earth minerals. Britain produces almost none of these. We're completely dependent on global supply chains, mostly from China, for the materials to construct wind turbines, solar panels, batteries. If those supply chains get disrupted, our entire energy transition stops dead. So we've got 5 interconnected catastrophes, each one making the others worse. But there's one more that changes everything about how Britain relates to the world. Britain's international position has weakened dramatically over the past decade, and most citizens haven't fully processed what this signifies. We departed the EU, our biggest trading partner, trade declined, European investment fell. That frictionless market access we possessed, gone, replaced by paperwork, delays, costs. Our special relationship with America, it's declining. The US is pivoting to Asia and is less interested in Europe. Britain's value as a bridge between America and Europe evaporated when we departed Europe. We're attempting to construct new trade deals with India, Australia, Asian nations, but we're a medium-sized economy negotiating from weakness. We require these deals more than they require us, so we make concessions and obtain worse terms. And militarily, the British Army is smaller than at any point since the Napoleonic Wars. The Navy cannot maintain its ships. The RAF has aging aircraft and recruitment problems. We're still a nuclear power, but in conventional military terms, we're a shadow of what we were 20 years ago. Soft power is excellent. Cultural influence is wonderful, but it doesn't protect you when hard security challenges emerge, and being militarily weak while geopolitically isolated is genuinely dangerous. Now here's where this advances from concerning to genuinely terrifying. Each of these 6 catastrophes on its own, manageable, painful, difficult, expensive, but manageable. All 6 striking simultaneously, that's systemic collapse because they're not separate. They feed into each other. Economic stagnation signifies no money to repair infrastructure. Crumbling infrastructure makes the economy less competitive, causing more stagnation. Demographic decline signifies fewer workers and less consumption, worsening stagnation. Social fragmentation prevents political consensus on reforms. Energy vulnerability makes industry uncompetitive. Geopolitical isolation signifies less foreign investment. It's a doom loop. Each challenge makes every other challenge harder to resolve. And we're in it presently. Let me demonstrate what this looks like in practice. Northern Ireland's power grid nearly collapsed last winter. Aging infrastructure, increased demand, supply constraints. It came within hours of total failure. If it had gone down, days to restore it, hospitals on emergency generators, no heating in winter, businesses shut, food spoiling. They barely avoided it through emergency measures. But here's the reality. All the factors that nearly caused that collapse are still present. Nothing's been repaired. It's going to occur again, and next time they might not stop it. That's not just a Northern Ireland challenge. That's a preview of what's approaching everywhere as these 6 catastrophes converge or examine council bankruptcies. Birmingham wasn't an anomaly. It's the first domino. Dozens more councils are on the edge. When a council goes bankrupt, services disappear, libraries close, youth programs end, roads don't get repaired, social care cut to the bare minimum. And here's the doom loop. Young citizens depart, taking tax revenue. Council finances get worse. More cuts, more citizens depart. It accelerates. We're going to witness parts of Britain essentially abandoned. Ghost towns where anyone with options has departed. This isn't speculation. It's already occurring in parts of the north and Wales. So when does this all come to a head? Here's the truth. It's already commenced. We're in the early stages presently, but collapse isn't one dramatic moment. It's gradual degradation that accelerates. Here's my assessment on the next 5 years. 2026, more council bankruptcies. NHS waiting times reach new records. Energy bills remain high. Real wages keep declining. Social unrest increases. Nothing catastrophic, just everything measurably worse. 2027 first major infrastructure failure. Could be a regional blackout, water crisis in a major city, critical transport failure. Government promises repairs they cannot afford. Citizens start realizing this is structural, not temporary. 2028 to 2029, economic crisis, either external recession or homegrown debt crisis. Unemployment spikes. Debt costs become unsustainable. Real austerity begins, not like 2010, but actual cuts to core services. Everyone feels 2030 to 32. Social breaking point, protests, strikes, possibly riots. Governments cannot last full terms because nothing functions. Political instability becomes the norm. 2033 onwards, 2 paths. Either radical reforms that completely restructure everything, painful but potentially effective, or managed decline into a medium-income country with deteriorating services and mass emigration of skilled workers. The second path is way more likely than the first. Okay, so you're probably considering, excellent, you've terrified me. Now what? Let me be direct about what genuinely matters initially. And this is crucial. Stop assuming the state will be present for you. Pensions, healthcare, social care. Plan as if these won't exist in any meaningful form when you require them. That's not pessimism, that's realism, based on the mathematics I've demonstrated you. Second, construct geographical optionality. If you've got skills that travel, research where else you could reside. I'm not stating definitely depart, but know your options. Have a plan B that isn't hope Britain gets better. Australia, Canada, New Zealand, several European countries, they're actively recruiting skilled workers. They have challenges too, obviously, but not this specific combination of catastrophe. Third, invest in portable assets. Property in the UK is illiquid and local. You cannot easily convert a house in Birmingham into anything useful if you need to relocate. Think international stocks, globally recognized skills, professional networks across borders. Fourth, construct personal resilience. Energy, water, infrastructure disruptions are likely in the next few years. Some level of preparation, backup power, water storage, basic emergency supplies isn't paranoia anymore. It's sensible. Fifth, community matters more than ever. Strong social networks become critical when systems fail. Know your neighbors. Construct relationships. Communities that function together survive disruptions better than isolated individuals. Sixth, financial diversification across institutions and jurisdictions. Don't maintain everything in UK banks. Consider holdings in harder currencies or values-preserving assets. I'm not stating bunker mentality, just don't be completely exposed to UK-specific risks. Seventh, utilize NHS services now while they still function. Obtain that surgery before waiting lists reach 3 years. Address medical issues before the system deteriorates further. Your health is an asset that compounds. Eighth, if you've got kids, consider their education with international mobility in mind. Languages, STEM skills, internationally recognized qualifications, they require to be able to function anywhere because Britain in 2050 might not offer them opportunities. Listen, I'm not hoping for any of this. I'm not accelerating it. I'm recognizing patterns and extrapolating from actual data. Everything I've demonstrated you comes from official statistics, mainstream research, or observable reality. Could Britain change course? Technically, yes. We could elect a government that implements radical reforms, accepts short-term pain for long-term restructuring, and pulls back from the brink. It's possible, but I cannot plan my life hoping politicians suddenly become brave and competent. I have to plan based on what's most likely. And what's most likely is continued gradual decline, punctuated by occasional acute catastrophe until something fundamental breaks. I don't know what that breaking point will be. Debt crisis, infrastructure failure, social unrest, or just slow grinding down until we're not a first world country anymore by any meaningful measure. What I do know is this. Individuals who perceive this approaching and prepare will fare infinitely better than those who don't. The gap between someone who comprehends what's occurring and adapts versus someone who assumes normality will continue. That gap is the difference between security and devastation. This isn't pessimism or optimism, it's realism. Britain is confronting 6 interconnected catastrophes with no clear solutions and no political will to implement solutions that might exist. That's not a recipe for stability, that's a recipe for decline. The UK we've known for 75 years, prosperous, stable, first world with comprehensive public services and rising living standards. That UK is ending. What replaces it depends on decisions being made presently. But those decisions aren't being made well or often aren't being made at all. You cannot control the government, cannot repair the NHS or pensions or infrastructure. But you can control your own preparation, your own plans, your own positioning for what comes next. The question isn't, is Britain about to collapse? The question is, what are you going to do about it? Because the collapse is already underway. It's just occurring slowly enough that most citizens haven't noticed yet.